Well, hey, if you're on our podcast here, on our Zoom meeting, welcome. There's nothing else to do today because I'm not going outside. I've got a fire going, and that's about all I'm going to do. But Jesse, on the other hand, that is our guest today, that's really been helping a lot of our clients find their way through peptides. Jesse Hernandez is actually a private contractor that would be your OSHA agent in the oil field business. And he got called out last night. Jesse, how hard is it to spin it around to show where you're at?
Let me see if I can do that.
There, so he's out on an oil field site, and he jumped in the car to warm up and to help us get down the road a little bit. So Jesse Hernandez, welcome and thank you for being with us today.
Yes, sir.
We've already had some neat conversation, and he's working with my wife, and she's really excited about the direction everything's going, and I'm getting all kinds of questions, and we have a lot of things we want to pursue as we go forward that we're kind of tiptoeing through this. One of my big things that I want to pursue is kidney failure, chronic kidney disease, and I'm just seeing so many videos online, on YouTube videos, where there's tremendous potential to help people with chronic kidney disease. So Jesse, if we can start with a little bit of your background, I know how you got started in this was pretty neat, and I'm just going to let you, share with my audience what it is that got you going with peptides. How did that happen?
So I'll kind of give you a little bit of backstory on who I am and kind of how my life has turned. So I've always been really big into athletics. I was a high school football player and then a college football player, and I've always been rather large. I think I played at the University of Missouri. I was close to 6'3", 320 pounds. But I worked out all the time, so it was a good 320, or as good as you would hope for from a collegiate offensive lineman. And so once I stopped the football journey, my weight just would always climb. And I got to a point, I think 3.5 years ago, where I was 350 pounds and wasn't a good 350 either. So I met a couple at a social gathering. She was a doctor and her husband was also in the medical field, and they were telling us about the GLP-1s, which at that time, semaglutide or Ozempic was, it had just came out mainstream and it was helping a lot of people. And so they turned me on to that. And of course, I drug my feet on it. But I think after about 2 months, I reached out to a physician in Oklahoma City to get me started on my GLP-1 journey. Long story short, lots of money spent on this. I ended up losing 35 pounds and I kind of stalled out. The financial side of things, that was a challenge. And then also the weight loss stalling was disappointing. So I started my big research push. But somewhere down that road, people were taking notice of what was happening to me in my body. And I got pushed in different directions to try to do research for other people, so on and so forth. So, I'm down about 90 pounds now over the course of 3 years. And I was diagnosed with fatty liver. That was about 4 years ago, which was another drive to get my weight controllable. High blood pressure, fatty liver, and then what they called pre-diabetic. So for me, it's been a really good journey. It's made my life and body a lot healthier because at the end of the day, no matter what your goals are, I think we can all align with having more time with our family and our loved ones, and that's really what my goal was. I hope I didn't go off on a tangent there, but that's pretty much my story.
Well, so we met through your participation at the gym close to us, and some other people there is how we ended up meeting. And then your son plays for Jones High School, and you came in to me and you said, "Hey, man, our kids are beat up. We're undefeated, headed to the state champ. We got 3 or 4 more games that we got to win, and what can we do to get these kids going a different direction? And so the kids started coming in and diving with us a little bit. And it gave you and I time to meet and understand each other a little better. And that's what led to Sharon getting hooked up with you, and you're guiding her on the right things to do. And I know over the course of those 3.5 years, when you stepped away from being prescribed by a doctor, which was very expensive, you found a path to being able to buy product direct, and then you started buying in quantities again because of the oil. You keep telling me these stories about the oil field workers that you're dealing with on a constant basis, and they're watching this transformation of Jesse, and they go, man, I want some of that. What do we do? How do we do it? And so you start educating them. And, when you understand the very basics, and as long as what I hate is when people have such a rapid weight loss from using peptides, that's just, I mean, I've seen people's face sink in and it's just not healthy. A lot of muscle mass is lost. And as we talked about how we start on this, I told you those concerns. Sharon and I both said that's a concern of ours. And so that's been something that has really been a concern for me. I want to go into this in a healthy manner. I want to do it over time, not over quickness, and that's what you've been able to provide.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of questions about what is, the right protocol. And there's a lot of research out there that you can readily find online. And so, one of the things that I like to do is guide people. I'm certainly not a doctor, I don't have a pharmacy or anything like that. But I can definitely help point you in the right direction if you're looking to source these things for yourself. They call it the gray market. Matter of fact, you can go online and search for whatever peptide and just put at the end of it for sale, and you can find all of them. But there, you do want a little bit of guidance there because there's a lot of people out there selling snake oil. So that's kind of where I come in, and I've got some vetted sources and things like that. But you just really need a little bit of help. If you want to try something different, you want to take a conservative approach. Obviously, you don't want to be the one, being a guinea pig for a certain compound, but it helps whenever you've got somebody or a group of people, like we have here, that are interested in it, and we can learn off each other and know what works. But for the vast majority of these peptides out there, they're well documented, they're well researched. You're not going to find a whole lot of negative reviews on these, because the safety profile is really, really big. Now, there are some out there, but it's just like anything. You take too many aspirin, you're going to have a really bad day. So, my research has shown, at least for what I'm taking, if you stay in that conservative window, you can kind of limit your side effects. But certainly, it's definitely worth discussing. Whatever your goal is, we can get you pointed in the right direction. And like I said, I'm not a professional researcher. I do consider myself a top of the line amateur researcher, but if you need any assistance in any of that, I'm always happy to help.
So, the GLP products, you've got so much background in, and you're having success helping people with that. And as I watch Dr. Trevor Beckmeyer, the FDA is trying to shut all this down, and he goes, why is this when it has zero bad effect? There's zero people that have been injured by peptides. We don't see that as being, we want to keep them available. So we talked about GLP-1, and that's going to be something that I would want hand holding if I went forward. So it's out there. There's several products in that space. But as I watched, Trevor just came out with another video, and he hammers on BPC 157 constantly about it being foundational. That's where you start. I mean, if I were wanting to start in peptides, which I just talked to you, I'm going to start on the BPC 157 with you. I want you to guide me on that. I'm having some muscular skeletal deals that just popped up. I think I've got Lyme. I think I've got some arthritic issues with, that's based in Lyme, and I'm doing some testing on that. but I've got some joint pain issues, and I've got a back deal that just flared up about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it flared up again yesterday, helping my wife with her post-surgery. I I want to get on a BPC 157 regimen, and I just want to start low and slow. I don't want any immediate things. I just want to help my body signal my body to do the right things.
Yeah.
So, can you talk a little about BPC 157? And then, if you were to build on that, what are the next ones that you would do behind it?
Would
So
you like me to
you
show the
know,
slides?
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
if you've got the slides, you can definitely show
Let me see if you can see them. Can you see it?
them.
There it is. Thank you.
Okay.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about BPC 157 and what it does. It's the body protection compound, and it's actually derived from within your stomach, and it's been found to have a lot of health benefits. And I do agree, it's a great foundation. And for the vast majority of peptide users, it's probably been the most researched, the most popular, certainly mainstream wise. So I think it's definitely worth discussing, and it should be in your tool bag as far as what are some options to use. In your case, you've got some injuries you may want to fix. So the way that I view BPC 157, and I talk to a lot of athletes. I do jujitsu, I do MMA, and just people that have lived everyday life. They're 50 years old that have aches and sores and stuff like that. And how can it help you? So here's what I tell people based on my research. BPC it's not a one shot and it cures anything and everything. Basically, if your body, whenever you were at your prime, let's say your prime was a 20-year-old male or a 20-year-old female, and your body was able to heal at 100% of its capacity. You were primed up, you got a scratch on your arm and it would take 6 days and your scratch would be healed. That was your prime. As you get older, your body loses efficiency, your mitochondria loses efficiency, your telomeres get shortened. There's a lot of things that just degrade over time. So now when you're 30, you're healing at and I'm just estimating here, of course. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not reading a screen. I'm just estimating on how I explain it to people to give you a good idea. When you reach 30 years old, you're now healing at 90%, 92%, and you can extrapolate that all the way to being 70, 80, 90 years old, and then you realize that, hey, my body is not as efficient as it used to be, and so now how can I add something to give my body the raw materials or the signaling to be more efficient at healing? And that's what BPC 157 does, amongst a handful of other peptides. But BPC being, like I said, the most readily available and knowledgeable, it's going to tell your body to heal wherever it needs to be healed. So some people on BPC 157 will take it systemically, which would be subcutaneous in a portion of body fat. My favorite spot on that is going to be the stomach. And what happens is your body gets signaled from that shot to begin the healing process. And so over a course of time, which, some people have different protocols for BPC 157. Like I said, you can search online. Some people take them every day, like Dr. Trevor. Some people prescribe to a 5-on, 2-off schedule. Some people like, blasting it for 8 weeks. It just kind of really depends on what your goal is. But another route of administration for the BPC 157 is intramuscularly. So if you have a sore bicep, you might just inject it right into that bicep. That's what some of the research shows online. I have personally used that to great success. So for me, it's worked. And for other people, they're going to have different responses. It just really depends on how efficient your system already is. So does that answer your question? Where else would you like me to dive into?
Well, everybody gets scared of those shots, right? So everybody wants to take it orally. And Trevor, everybody I've talked to that's at a high level, or everybody that I've watched online, and should I say that it's at a high level, they absolutely are against taking any of this orally. It's just not what you want to do.
Right.
And so that's one thing I kind of wanted to stop. And then you and I talked about, Trevor had a show on about stacking and why stacking,
Mm.
taking multiple, at this, what he calls taking them in the same barrel
Yeah.
is just not the thing to do. And he gets real deep into it. I'm going to be putting up a Trevor Bachmeyer that I just watched this morning where he digs into BPC 157. That's what an hour show is about. And he digs into the misfoldings in the tau in your brain that BPC 157 pushes back on those protein misfoldings. And that's where dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, that's where all that originates, is our mitochondria, is our metabolism not operating properly, which is going back to what you said. When we're 20, it operates a lot different than when we're 30. When we're 50, or I'm 67, I'm starting to get concerned that, everything's not working like it used to, and I want to try to regain some of that. And so I'm going to be posting that video. That'll go out in our next newsletter. I know, Ryan, it needs to go out. It'll go out this next week, I promise, if that's the only thing I send out, because it really is speaking to what you just talked about. By the way, if you guys have a question, if you'll write it down, when we get to kind of a stopping point at around 11:40, then we're going to let you raise your hand and ask questions. So if you got a question, write it down, and Ryan's helping us do all that. So what about one of the other things that Trevor, I mean, he covered a lot of stuff that I'm trying to cover. He talked about how BPC 157 in the tubules of your kidneys. He got into the science of how 157 will recover those tubules and make your kidneys operate at a higher function. Uh, Again, I just go back to using the term foundational, the way he talks about this one thing. And I really want my clients to watch that one video. And that's just a good place to start. If you were to do peptides, do the 157 and just go low and slow. See what happens.
I agree with that. I wanted to touch on your first discussion point, which was oral peptides, oral BPC. There are a handful of orals out there that you can take, and I do agree.
Yeah, it wasn't 157. That's what I was speaking to. Yes, there are some oral peptides. Yes.
So I just wanted to speak on that briefly. And, the data shows that oral peptides, there is some success, but here's the problem with them. If you take a 10 milligram pill of whatever it is you're taking and you swallow it, you simply don't know how much of that 10 milligram is going to be bioavailable once it gets into your system. You've got stomach acid, you've got, other food, other liquids in there. You just don't know how your body is going to destroy that peptide or reduce its efficacy there. So I'm not a big fan of the oral peptides. Now, I will say I do utilize a different product sublingually, which sublingually is under the tongue. You have a little bit more bioavailability there because it's going through your blood vessels underneath your tongue. So my favorite two routes are obviously going to be subcutaneous and then intramuscular, followed by nasal. There is some success with nasal peptides that is coming down the pipeline, which that's one to be explored too. But my point is, the needles are the ones where you know exactly what's going into your body. That's bypassing your filtration system. Secondly, sublingually would be my third favorite route, followed by nasal, and then lastly would be the ingestion into your stomach. So that's my answer on that one. Certainly, if you have a different point of view, I'm all ears for it. And I tell people this too: if you ever want to challenge something, there's not going to be a tug of war. Like, I'm not going to hold firm to my stance because we're just so early into the peptide game that, there may be a right way, an okay way, and a wrong way. We're simply going to learn on that. And there's a lot of a lot of new information coming out. So if you want to challenge a point, feel free. Let's talk about it. And you may make sense to yourself. You may make sense to somebody else. It's all about, helping each other get the correct message as best we can. And then,
so you sent out the list that we're looking at online here. You sent out 3 pages of what peptides signal. This peptide is signaling for this. And I'm going to send all of that out again in my next newsletter, just as a very elementary guide to what peptides are signaling. So when you go down through there and you see liver, there are peptides. In fact, kind of touch on this. There's a group that was importing all these Russian bioregulators, and they had been importing them for a long time. And all these Russian bioregulators had Russian names this long, and so all of our people here are trying to say in Russian, "I want that peptide." Well, they finally went back and they said, okay, what's this Russian peptide? And they said, well, that's the one that helps the liver. And they said, okay, this one's called liver. And they said, what's this long name? Well, that one's the one that helps kidneys. And they said, okay, this one helps kidneys. And so that's how they actually market it on their site now. And it literally, all of the individual organs, they found the best peptide because a lot of it's generated from organs, correct? I mean, they take the organ and grind it up, and that's how they develop this peptide. And so all the major organs, they now have peptide names. It's liver, heart, lung, and to make it simple, it doesn't have to be so doggone difficult. So I thought that was interesting. But I'm going to take these lists. That'll be in my next newsletter with that Trevor video, and we're going to put this out there. And that way somebody has a way to start. When you sent me that list, Jesse, is that something that you're familiar with, all those peptides? Have you helped clients with most of those peptides?
Typically, if I'm helping somebody with a peptide, there is a 99.9% chance possibility that I myself have researched with that peptide.
Okay.
Honestly, there's only one peptide that I am super interested in that I cannot find the actual protocols on how people are utilizing it. I'm not going to say the name of it, but we've talked about it, and it's a neuroptic, and it's supposed to be extremely beneficial for your brain, whether you had a brain injury, you just want cognitive enhancements. But I'm a little bit scared of it because there's not a lot of information out there. So yes, if I send a list out, there's a good chance that I've already done it myself and have researched it. And I'm not putting anything in my body until I have satisfactory research or enough data collected to where it's safe for me. And that's one of the things about this is, we can read 100 different peptides, but I'm never going to suggest anything to anybody if you don't do research on it on yourself, because at the end of the day, with this being the frontier of an alternative, and I say medicine loosely because it's already what your body creates. Medicine for me is a synthetic pill or injection that science or modern medicine has created to not fix the problem, but mask the problem or temporarily take it away. So for me, peptides is definitely an alternative source of medicine in the aspect that your body's already creating this. Your body creates thousands of peptides on its own. So I'm never going to suggest something if I haven't taken it. And we may spend weeks or months trying to find the research on it before I'm comfortable putting it in my body. And I certainly wouldn't suggest anybody else put anything in their body if they're not comfortable with it.
Jesse, aren't a lot of these nasal products that are coming out, aren't those neurotropic? Aren't those, aren't they looking at those for Alzheimer's, dementia?
Yes.
Isn't that what it's for?
So right now, the big push is neuroptics and libido assistance. That's what I'm finding. That's what's all over the forums. And the research that I'm finding is neuroptics. That's a big one. And then libido, of course, both men and women. So you can see how mainstream media has taken those and is definitely trying. It's really going across the forums like wildfire. who doesn't want to be smarter and who doesn't want to be, more intimate. So those are the two topics that are focusing for the nasal side of stuff.
I've got so many clients that come to me and they go, man, I'm concerned about my cognitive level. I'm concerned that I'm, declining. And the first thing I ask every one of them, are you still eating sugar? Do you still eat bread? Do you still eat simple carbohydrates, noodles? That's the first thing. There's no reason to get in my chamber and leave and go eat pizza. You're just negating what you're gaining. I mean, you're just stopping it. And I think what's coming down the peptide, that's what I'm looking for. And you and I are sharing a lot of the videos that we're watching. I want to find those videos that are addressing dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's because they're out
Yep.
there, and that's where a lot of this product's headed. And we have to go there cautiously. So
Yeah, I agree.
um,
Piggybacking off of your little discussion on, making sure that you're not eating sugars and things like that. One of my biggest things that I ask people if they're struggling mentally is, are you staying hydrated
yeah.
and are you eating quality food?
Mhm.
Dehydration is a really big problem with people today. So that for me is going to be my number one question I'm going to ask you is, are you hydrating? So, I mean, I go so far from my health that, I have these urinalysis strips, and I just bought them on Amazon, and it's connected to an app. And, I collect my sample, I dip it in there, I wait the 60 seconds, I take a picture, and it tells me what it's seeing, if I'm dehydrated, and amongst other things. So I take my health pretty seriously, and there's no reason why, if you're on this call right now, I think you guys are definitely on the right track. And, finances aside, I think you should definitely be trying to know what your body's doing.
So
the last thing I wanted to talk about,
Uh-huh.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Your last point of stacking peptides. Here's my thought on this. Now, I know Dr. Trevor goes into a big video on this. What I took from it, from a peptide researcher myself who has done the stack and has done individual peptides, the way that I take it is, Dr. Trevor says that you don't know what you're getting whenever you load all these peptides into one gun or one bottle, you reconstitute them, it can change the actual chemical makeup of peptides. And so I share that concern. So what I say is, if you're a person who doesn't want to take multiple shots and you want to try a blend, do it cautiously. Okay, I'm not going to say that I rule it completely out, but if you start getting 4, 5, 6 peptides in one bottle, I'm going to be an advocate against that. So once again, my bottom line on that is, I don't believe stacking is the most efficient way to get your body working properly. If you want to know exactly what's going into your body, you need to do them individually. And I know, Paul, we've talked about this at length. Make sure that you do your research and you're not just slamming all these peptides at one time. I mean, I'm not even going to lie to you guys. In the very beginning, when I had access to a lot of peptides, I would take 10 shots a night and think I'm really doing something. And in some ways, I am giving my body the signaling. But if you give your body 10 commands all at once, it can really get confusing for your circuit board. So what I'm going to suggest to you is, if you are interested in multiple peptides, you do your research. You can also ask me. I'll help you out. You can ask Paul. Anybody, that is doing the research here, they'll be happy to share what they're finding. I'm not a big believer in monetizing research. I think this should be, it should be readily available out there. There are some people that charge $7, $8, $9, $10,000 for a protocol. That's not what I'm advocating. I'm advocating for you researching, getting with people, creating a circle, and then, making the best decision for you.
Well,
don't stack.
Just a simple thing, and I'm not going to get into, I can't remember all the medical jargon, but what Bachmeyer was saying, and I'll just be real simple with the Wolverine stack. That's the BPC 157 and the TB 500, probably the most common stack. Okay. And what he said is every time he said, the way you want to take it, how much of this is convenience? I just want one shot. I'm just going to do this
Yeah.
once today. Well, again, you're confusing the body by giving it two commands at the same time. And what he says is that turns into resistance because the body's going to be continually confused, taking them at the same time, and that eventually will turn into resistance. Whereas if you take the BPC 157 in the morning daily, and then however often you decide to take the TB 500, take it in the evening before you're going to bed. Now you're giving your body two separate commands at two ends of the spectrum, and they both have an opportunity to respond to them the way they're supposed to. So why, when he laid it out that simple, I'm like, I'm back to convenience. I would rather do
Yeah.
it the best way to get the best bang for my buck instead of the convenient way. And so I know a lot of people that I've already been talking to that are on a lot of these products in stacks. You've got here on your list the Glow, that's turned into quite a deal as well. And then there's the Clo with the K, and I mean it's just stack, stack, stack. And I just hope people will be understanding of that, and whoever's guiding you really dig down into it. So I'm going to send out I'm going to really dig into the BPC 157 with Trevor. I'm going to send that video out and your list. Is there something else that you're seeing great things happen from, Jesse, that we would move to another part of this list? Is the TB 500 something we would spend a few minutes on?
No, TB 500 is a great addition to BPC 157, but TB 500 isn't one that I'm just in love with. I think it's a great addition to the BPC 157 if you take it correctly. But that's not one that I would suggest it, but it's simply as in addition to.
So what about copper? I hear a lot of women that are getting on the GHK-Cu and they're having great success with it. In fact, I think you even said it's crazy to be out on a well site and uh, one of the hands out on the well site are talking to you about how great your skin looks.
I
Is that?
had a grown man that I have worked with for over 6 years. He's not a peer because he's older than me, and he's somebody that I would look to be able to survive in a forest by himself for 2 months. And he says to me, because we've had multiple conversations about these peptides, he says, Jesse, what are you doing? Your skin looks better than I've ever seen it before. And I was like, of course, I was very thankful of the compliment, and I was like, wow, man, I get. So I went to the mirror straight up, and I was like, let me look at my face, and sure enough, man, my skin is very healthy. And so to your point of the copper peptide, the GHKCU, so that is one that right now we talk about social media and the push for it. It's a cosmetic peptide. And so that's what everybody's using it for, not realizing that the research is starting to show that it is so much more than a cosmetic peptide. And I don't have my notes in front of me right now, so I don't want to misspeak, but this it really, if I'm picking two peptides, not with the weight loss, because the weight loss one has been the most drastic for me. If I'm picking two peptides, I think you got to give a real strong consideration for the foundation peptides of BPC 157 and GHKCU. I
Well,
really think,
that's what the deal is what you're saying, and that's what I'm seeing too, is they say, hey, if it can do this to your skin and rebuild the collagen, making your collagen more uniform, thick, glow, I mean literally a glow. If it'll do
yeah,
that for your skin, what is it doing to the rest of your organelles? I mean, it's not just your skin, it doesn't get drawn just to your skin. So yeah, I'm seeing the same thing in a lot of the conversations online.
I will
Hey,
caution.
go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to add a little bit of caution with that copper peptide. You will know that it is the copper peptide because it's the only peptide that is the color purple. It's a deep purple. Now, with that being said, when you go to mix it, you have to be very careful because there are reports of the copper peptide having PIP, which is post-injection pain, right around the site. It can sting. If that happens to you, give me a call. I'll be able to walk you through how to prevent that.
So Keith Bishop works with a lot of my clientele, and Keith says be very, very careful of too much copper in your body. It can be very detrimental. So my personal to go into the copper would be to work with somebody that has that understanding. He's saying that these houses that have all copper plumbing, if you live in a house pre-1980, then you've got copper plumbing. And a lot of times the occupants of that house have copper poisoning. If they're drinking out of those lines, they're taking in too much copper and they have to be. He always tests for that when he's dealing with his cancer clients. That's one of the tests that he defines what is their copper levels, because you don't want too much copper in your body. So
Right.
that's a tricky one, and I'm glad you brought that up. So why don't we, Ryan, if anybody has a question, if you'll move your mouse and you see at the bottom it says react. If you click on react, you can raise your hand and that will initiate Ryan clicking on you and you can ask a question.
I see that Karen had already asked a question.
I'm sorry, I missed it. So I'm Ryan's going to have to drive this boat. I don't know how to.
So I clicked here and it says in the chat, Karen had asked which peptides should be avoided if you have a history of cancer. Now, there's going to be a few of them, and I'm going to mention just the ones that I'm familiar with, certainly not the comprehensive list. So in the event you're concerned about cancer, there's going to be some that you're going to want to steer away from. Typically, those would be any of your secretagogues that secrete human growth hormone, any of your, let's call them morellins, ipamorelin, simimorelin, tesamorelin. I would caution on those. I would also caution IGF LR3, which is not one that you would take for just general wellness. It would be more for the people who want to add muscle mass. HGH is another one. The safety profile for a lot of these peptides is really big, but if you try to get aggressive in your self-treatment, you can cause other cells to grow. So that would be a discussion that we probably would need to have in length and kind of see what's going on. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a researcher just like you. So if you did want to have that discussion, we could maybe have another class on that, or we could have a little sit down, or we could talk about it in the dive chamber. There's lots of ways we can discuss that, but that's a serious one, and it certainly is one that we need to have our due diligence on.
Well, Jesse, what I would recommend to all the people on this, I work real close with Keith Bishop. We have a podcast that we do every Thursday, and he actually gets in the chamber with all my clients and answers questions in there. And when peptides first came up, growth factor came up, and he was like, "Whoa, Paul, if you're dealing with cancer, you just don't want to go that direction." And he said, "I don't know anything about peptides. I just know that." And then 2 or 3 weeks later, he said, "Thank you for opening my eyes to peptides, but my eyes are bleeding." He's like, he's so into it now, and he's doing so much research in it. And Bachmeyer even talks about, and I think it's 157. I think it was in this one that we just did that I watched this morning. There are a lot. In fact, one of my clients with glioblastoma is going up to Detroit, seeing a doctor in Detroit, and he's being treated on his glioblastoma with peptides. So and Keith has turned around. He's found some peptides to help specific cancers. I see one of my clients that's on our call here, and he's doing peptides through Keith for colorectal cancer. So
Wow.
Keith is finding a path, but all these cancers are so different, and to not have that understanding of the pathways and the specific cancers, I would I would recommend that if you have a question along those lines, Keith is going to be a great resource because that's all he does. Now, eventually, I hope Keith and Jesse start communicating. Uh, and Keith's got access to a lot of these peptides. So anyway, there's another path if you're dealing with cancer. Just do not get off into peptides without some really, really good
Yeah,
oversight.
you definitely need some guidance there.
Yeah.
Don't just dive off into the deep end there. Karen had a question. Let me get to it now. It says, "Have you seen or heard of nerve renewal with peptides?" As a matter of fact, there was a gentleman that I had spoke to at work and was talking about how he had, there's a specific term for it, but basically he had nerve pain and dizziness because it was in his legs or where he wasn't able to stand upright for very long. And interestingly enough, I did dive into that, not too long ago. And if I'm not mistaken, write this down. This is a good one. It is ARA-290. And I think there's promising protocols and studies as it pertains to nerve repair and regeneration. I'm super excited about that one for the people with nerve damage. So more to come on that. That's another serious one, especially given the implications of nerve damage and as many people that suffer from that. So that's one to stand by on and keep doing the research on. So ARA 29.
So Josh Fate at Ultra Botanica, he works through Ultra Botanica. He came up with a blend of urolithin A and NAC, N-acetylcysteine, and he combined those two in a high dose. And I've got a lot of neuropathy clients that have nerve pain, and that's what they're dealing with. And what that blend takes care of is it rebuilds the myelin sheath. And I've had a lot of clients have success with that. So there's an option as well. But I've got a lot of clients that have diabetic neuropathy, and I'm gonna look this up myself. Thank you for that question because I have a lot of people that are trying to deal with that. And anyway, that great question. What do you got next?
Let's see.
So there's Karen again.
I think she just said thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Karen.
You have to unmute your mic, Karen.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I'm Guy's mom, just so you know who I am, Paul.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Hi. So thank you for the information on the peptides for the cancer history. Because we live in Texas, Guy did bring us some peptides when he came down at Christmas time. What is the best way for us to continue to get those peptides from y'all or from whoever he got them from, knowing that they're going to have to be shipped?
Karen, I'm just curious. Did you have success? Have you had success? Is it something you want to continue? Have you already noticed it?
Yeah, so I am taking the C-Max, and I feel like I am able to concentrate better.
Yeah.
And I'm not as scatterbrained, I guess is the way I would put it. I feel like it has helped just me think more clearly. And I've only been taking it since Christmas. So I feel like I want to continue on that. The other one that I've been taking that I actually got through our doctor, through a pharmacy, is the terzepatide. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
It's supposed to help with weight loss, though I don't need to lose weight. It was also supposed to help with some other things, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But there's so many of these things that Guy has talked about to us, and you're talking about not stacking too many, being really careful about that. So, I'm just so interested in this and how it can help us. I'm really interested in the question that Tanya asked because my husband does have the neuropathy so bad. Um, from just the cancer treatments, and also he has the diabetes. So would love to hear, whatever you find out about that peptide as well. So I'm saying a lot, but just really curious about how we can continue to get um, the the peptides from y'all, just knowing that we're not there.
Jesse, what's an answer for that?
So that's actually quite easy. That would be a question. Do we have your contact information? I'll reach out to you.
Yes, I'll get all that to you, Jesse.
I'll reach out to you after the call,
Okay.
and we'll get you sorted.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Um, so Tanya, you had a question about muscle loss.
Yes. Can you hear me, Paul?
Yes,
Great. Um, is it Jesse that's doing this?
yes, Jesse Hernandez.
Thank you, Jesse, for this. Um, hey,
Very
Paul,
welcome.
my husband is a longtime diabetic and he has been on metformin and he's currently he's had a lot of muscle loss due to that drug. He's been in Taekwondo, and so he's noticeably lost a lot of muscle mass, and it's concerning because it's looks like he's losing weight, but it's really muscle. And so he's trying to come off of the metformin in a healthy way. He's started with the Rise mushroom coffee and has had really good success with that as far as helping to control his diabetes and slowly wean off that metformin. But I'm concerned, is there a peptide that he could begin taking that would help to rebuild that muscle? He's going to be 56 this year, and we realize that, we have a ticking time clock with that, and we want to make the most of our time with it.
Question. What type of diabetes does he have?
2.
Type 2?
Mhm.
All right.
Is he on
So
insulin?
No, no.
Okay.
He really tries to control his diet and watch that. Um, and the dive chamber has really helped his neuropathy. He doesn't get to come very often, but when he does, it nips it in the bud for a while. Um,
He may have some detox going on, which, doing enough sessions he'll get on the other side of that.
get on
And
that. Yeah.
I'm sure Jesse's got something, but you need to talk to Keith about
Okay.
berberine. Now,
And he has taken berberine. We've had good success with that.
Okay. Well, I'll let Jesse answer the peptide question. Go ahead, Jesse.
man, this is so I'm just kind of looking at what metformin is, since I have no direct knowledge of it. I'm researching it now. Type 2 is really exciting for me because if you're not on insulin, my research has shown if you're on a GLP-1, it is going to bring your insulin sensitivity back into normal ranges. And
Wow.
I don't know, type 2, in my experience, is almost always caused by being overweight. Is that
Right,
where we're at?
right.
So, and if you remember, I mentioned I was pre-diabetic, which I was headed for type 2. I wasn't too far away. And so I get excited about what you said with him being type 2, because, if it's me for myself, and like I said, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to tell you what to do or anything like that. But if it's me, I'm thinking GLP-1 is going to get me to a healthy weight, and I won't have any more problems of insulin sensitivity, because that's exactly what a GLP-1 does. Like for me,
Right.
that's such an exciting issue, and I know you guys are having trouble with it, but I think it would be something that you need to look into with the GLP-1, whether the tirzepatide, which is FDA approved, although not for diabetic usage. it is showing to improve insulin sensitivity. And I've currently guided 2 people that are type 1, which again, you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt because it's not FDA approved. And I'm not a big fan of the FDA,
Yeah.
but what that means to me is if I am helping 2 people that have type 1 and their insulin usage is being drastically reduced, to me that's signaling a positive result and
Correct.
could potentially be life-changing for individuals
Right.
in that realm.
The only difference with my husband is he doesn't have a weight issue. He did for years, but he dropped weight in the last few years. And his mother is a type 2 diabetic and she does take insulin. They're both thin on the thinner side. He and I would have to delve into, his specifics and exactly what he feels is causing him to
Well,
continue to be diabetic.
you'll be interested to know that, in case of being overweight, you're going to lose the weight there. But in case where he's not overweight, but he still has
Uh-huh.
insulin resistance, the
Right.
GLP-1s, as long as you do your research and you pick the one that, I mean, there's a couple of suggestions that I would have, but if you do the
Okay.
research and you pick the one that is going to restore your insulin sensitivity to normal levels, I mean, think about it.
That's
If
that's
if you know what I mean, like if the
yeah.
problem is you're not you're resistant to insulin and you
Uh-huh.
can restore that, wouldn't that effectively fix the issue?
Exactly.
You see how
Exactly. And
exciting that is?
it would
Like that,
yes, it would solve that issue.
All right.
Um
and then
So
you go to the muscle.
Tanya, do
yeah.
you want me to share your name with Jesse so he can contact you?
Yes, I do.
I'll do that. I'm going to try to get to a next
Great.
question here because somebody's asking a question that I'm hammering Jesse about, and we've already
Okay.
Let's
talked about
see.
it a couple of times. But Cody, if you would you like to ask your question?
Hey, Paul, it's Todd.
Hey, Todd.
I'm on Cody's computer. But
Good.
yeah, I'm wondering if there are specific peptides that help with people who've had a stroke, particularly like a mild stroke with recovery with numbness in the extremities.
Now I'm going to shame you, Todd, that he should be in the chamber already.
Yeah.
And then we add the peptides. I mean, if he's local, he should be at the chamber immediately after that stroke. But, my whole deal is what can we accomplish by using peptides and the chamber together? That's going to be that 1 and 1 equals 3. So,
Right.
Jesse, have you ever worked with somebody with stroke recovery?
So I have never directly worked or researched with somebody about stroke recovery. That being said, in my research journey, I have intertwined certain peptides that's what people use them mainly for. I'm trying to get through some notes here. The one that I'm really scared of seems to be what would you say? The big kahuna,
Yeah.
the top dog.
I knew you were
I mean,
going to
we
go
talk
back
about,
to, yeah, that's the one I can't find.
I mean, so here's the thing about it, and that we could probably spend hours on this one, but I kind of butcher the name of it. It's like cerebrolison. It's based off of, and I said I didn't want to say the name to it, but this is actually a pretty serious topic when you talk about recovering from stroke. And it's super exciting. I want it for the neuroptics. I want to be able to have a calculus minded brain on command, which I don't know if that will ever be the case, but I want to give myself the best possible options there. So cerebrolison would be one. There is research out there, but it's from the manufacturer. So I don't know what the protocol is for the lyophilized powder that I receive via the peptides. So there's no protocol for that, but there is protocol for the actual manufacturer where they will give intravenous injections. Now, if it's me and I've got somebody that I love that has had a stroke, I'm flying to Europe and I'm going to go get that treatment, whatever it costs. That's me. If you're using it for a neuroptic to try to increase your mental capacity, you would still want to stick right now probably with something like C-Max and Solank. I know I think, was it Karen is having great success with the C-Max, which is a great neuroptic as well. You can also pair it with Solank, and then the cerebrolizine is the one that, again, I'm just super excited to find more information about, but one of those things where there's not a lot of information out there. Are there other peptides? All right, go ahead.
So Todd, was that a blockage stroke or a bleeding stroke?
It was a blockage.
Okay. So
Very minor.
Whatever you go down, that's always the first thing to identify what kind of stroke it was. So I typed it into chat. I'm waiting for an answer, but anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jesse.
Yeah, so there's a list of them, and again, this is an area of research that I'm in my infancy stage to it. So whoever needs help or guidance on that, we're going to be learning together, and that's just going to strengthen our overall understanding. But as I look through the general list here, some I'm familiar with, some I'm not. We talked about IGF, insulin growth factor. That's one they suggest. Thymosin, beta 4, AVP, MSH, oxytocin, and then neuropeptide, kind of like what Paul was talking about, how the Russians have a generic name for all their peptides. Brain peptide, well, a neuropeptide. But there's a handful of these things that I think you would really need to have a strategic plan for, and this would be, it's certainly outside of the scope of my expertise, but I don't mind doing research and helping you or whoever needs it. Like I said, I don't charge for information. I'm excited to help people in any way that I can. Does that? I know that's
Todd, I am working on that. I've got lots of clients that have had strokes and, again, cognitive decline. I've got a lot of people in that space, and I'm really working diligently to find a path to, and I have something else going on. We just bought, I wanted to say this while we're on here. I just bought the New Mind, which is a QEEG platform. So it will allow us to do brain mapping so that we can program the red light, the photobiomodulation helmet that I have.
Yes.
And we can actually program a home unit that you can use at home. And I'm real excited that we're going to have that in-house, and I can send home units home for, a 3-month period. And that's another tool that will help you recover from a stroke. So we got a lot of things going right now. And then when you take those things and you do them together, I even got invited to a study that we're going to be able to do the brain mapping and follow progress using hyperbarics and the brain mapping to see progress. So we got a lot of things going on right now that I'm excited about. But
very exciting time.
I promise I will continue looking that up. Did we answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jesse and Paul. I'll pass all this along as well.
Well, hope we see him in the chamber. That would be neat to get that going.
Absolutely.
The C-Max, I'm seeing your column here on brain, mood, and cognition. Have you ever dealt with any of these at this point, Jesse?
Oh yeah, for sure. As far as it pertains to like cognitive and overall brain health, I do a lot of public speaking professionally for my line of work, and it has definitely elevated my speaking ability, my confidence, and I think we all have different degrees of brain fog. So I can speak to C-Max and Solank being productive in that realm.
Cool. Do we have any more questions? I'm kind of curious. We're coming up on an hour.
Hey, Paul, it's Mark.
Are we good at this point?
Hey, Paul, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, it's Mark Inovan. Hey, I got a
Hey.
question for you guys, if you don't mind, just because I'm trying to figure something out. I did start with the peptides, the BPC 157 a while ago. I think I only took it 2 or 3 times, but what happened at the same time is I ended up developing what I think is some bad nerve pain in my left triceps, and I wasn't sure if it was from the peptides or not, so I discontinued use. And I was just interested to know, is it likely that that could be happening to people from the use of 157? And, is there causation there?
I'll speak on that. So I'm going to speak on it from a general point of view. The BPC 157 is, in my opinion, arguably the most recognized peptide in the world. Would you agree with that, Paul?
Oh, well, from what I'm understanding, yes, that would be my thought.
So, and I read the forums, and I say the forums as a general, okay? So what you'll do is you'll utilize Google or Chat GPT or whatever you want to utilize and ask the question, what are the side effects that you would typically experience with XYZ peptide? And it will bring up a lot. You'll also learn from Reddit or any of the peptide forums, and what people are seeing. So what I'm gonna say to you is, or I'm going to try to answer this in a generic way, unfortunately, because I don't know your case, but is it possible that it created nerve pain? I'm going to say the percentage chance is extremely low because that's not what I'm seeing research-wise. Is it possible that that you coincidentally had an issue? Sure, but I'm not going to discredit the fact that it happened. It could be from BPC 157, but that's not what we're seeing based on the research. If there was a sky is falling event where BPC is causing, all these side effects, I'm going to assume we would hear about that in record appearance. You would see it on social media. So could it possibly happen? Yes, it could. Did it? There's no way to know for sure. You have stopped the BPC 157. Is the nerve pain gone?
No, still there.
Still there?
Yeah, and it's even gotten a little bit worse, but yeah,
So it's in your tricep?
correct.
So do you have any elbow pain?
Yes, yeah, I feel it down into the funny bone and into the fingers.
Okay, I have dealt with something like that where when I had my shoulder surgery, I was telling the doctor that when I lay on the bed and my elbows are like this, laying on the bed being comfortable, there's shooting pain in my actual elbow. And apparently it's tendonitis, which tendonitis, I'm not saying that's what you have. I don't know. I'm just trying to spitball here. For
Yeah.
me, I've had nerve pain that is associated with the tendonitis. And it may be just a case where, it happened right then when you took it. So now you're like, oh, shoot, that probably is coming from the BPC 157. So
Nope,
is there
nope.
any way to know? I don't know. It's just not what we're seeing on the research.
That's a fine answer. As Paul will endorse, we know what we think my problem is, which is my environment, which is causing issues from mold and Lyme. And so then it brings to the next evolution of the question, because I got this input. I let somebody who was really experienced in biotoxins, I had a call with her and I said, I'm doing peptides. And she says, peptides are wonderful. You should absolutely do them. But she said, I would recommend discontinuing use right now while you're in an unhealthy environment, because you're essentially your immune system is taxed and it's under attack right now. And she recommended not using peptides while I am in that environment. What are your thoughts on that?
I think for the most part, she's right. Do you have a pen handy?
Yes.
I want you to write this down and do some research, and you tell me what you think
Okay.
at a later date. Thymosin, which is THYMOSIN, thymosin,
Uh-huh.
alpha 1. You type that in, and then you ask the question, what will it do to my immune system? Or would this help me? Or I'm dealing with mold right now. Do you think that thymosin alpha 1 would be a benefit to my immune system? And you start your research protocol on that, and I think you'll know what direction I would be researching if I was you.
And I missed part of this call. I apologize. I assume thymosin alpha 1 is a peptide.
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to look into it. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Absolutely. Now, again, I do want to say to everybody here is, like, I'm a researcher. I'm not a medical professional. My journey has caused me to research a multitude of peptides. I'm only telling you what I think, and it's for entertainment purposes only. Your mileage may vary, and like I said, I will help you do research if you need. But yeah, I don't want to make it seem like I'm prescribing anything or anything like that. I just know what I know, and I'm happy to share it.
No, that sounds great. So I'll look at that one. But for 157, would you what is your opinion? Do you think I should not do
I
that
mean,
as well?
I really can't, not to dismiss anything. I just can't see how it would be related.
That's
I mean, I
fair.
guess there is the possibility for it. Where were you injecting the BPC 157?
Oh, I'm not. So just to answer your question, in my belly fat. But I'm not going back to 157 causing the issue. I'm just saying if I'm in a bad environment, is it? Do you think that it would be not advantageous for me to do 157 while I'm still in that environment?
Well, I think what your friend is telling you is you need to be in a better environment before you start adding stuff that is relatively unknown. But, going back to the first part of our discussion, a peptide is a signaling peptide to tell your body to be more efficient or do its actual job. And I can only see Paul's face here, but I can't really read what everybody's opinion is. But my thought is, if you're in a scenario to where your body's not being as efficient as it needs to be because of an outside environmental concern, how on earth could it be a negative thing to actually have your body signaled to be more efficient than what it is? I mean, that's just my thought process. Maybe I'm a little bit too tunnel visioned here, but if you have a problem because your body's not operating in high efficiency, and there's a peptide that can get your body operating in high efficiency, it seems like a no-brainer to me. But I also could see why she's like, look, you need to get in a better environment before you start adding anything. It's just, I know what I would do. I just can't speak for you.
No, I got it. That's a good answer. And maybe where she was coming from was the idea that, hey, you need to be putting all of your stock and all of your priority right now into fixing the environment. All the other stuff could be helpful, but she's just trying to direct all of my willpower into fixing the environment because that is the hardest thing to do.
I think that is probably money well spent in terms of your activity, is getting yourself in a better environment. If you got a knife in your arm, you're going to pull it out, right? If you're around hazardous chemicals, you need to get away from them. So
yeah, mine isn't that easy, but I got you. Okay, well, this is very helpful for me making my decisions with the peptides. So thank you very much for your input.
You're very welcome.
So I just brought Brian back on as the host. Brian, how are we doing? We got everything clear at this point?
We're good to go. I don't see any other questions or
All
hands
right.
up right now.
I want to thank everybody for doing this. It was our first time out, and I've been wanting to get Jesse in front of a lot of my clients. So I appreciate you hanging in there and listening. If you had questions, asking them, that's awesome. But if ever you would like to talk to Jesse, come to me and I'll give you Jesse's information, or I'll have him call you. I've got two people I'm going to have him call back. And that's all I got. You got anything, Jesse?
Really appreciate the time, guys. I am a researcher for the people, and I want to help you guys get the information that you need to make the best decision that is available to you at the time.
Hey, everybody that is looking to book a session, eventually we're going to land on the day each week that Jesse's going to come, and we'll have a chamber session where you have him pinned in the chamber and he can't get out till he answers all of our questions. But as we work up to that, anytime you're on Hyperbaric Plus booking a session, if there's a special event going on, it'll be in the title. So, and we'll put some information out there on peptides. It'll be peptide classes, the way the title will be. So that's what we're going to be doing in the future. And I appreciate everybody being here. I see that it's snowing really good out here in Luther. So you guys be careful. Jesse, be careful out. Where are you at? What part of the world?
I am in Alec, Oklahoma.
Okay. Well, be careful out there. It's treacherous, I understand. So we will see you guys next week sometime. Thank you again.